afternoon, Mr. Loh, Mr. Teo, teachers, my fellow Hwa Chong juniors. My name is Aaron. I just finished my second year at the University of Pennsylvania in the US, doing a gold degree in political science at the College of Arts and Sciences and finance at the Wharton Business School. Like you, I was a ProEd student and have always been very proud to be one. I'm extremely honored to have been given this very special privilege to come back here today. Hwa Chong and ProEd house special formative memories for me. So I spent a fair amount of time pondering about what I should share today. I spoke to many of my friends who came back as PE teachers and teaching assistants. I turned the clock back and wondered what I'd like a returning senior to speak to me. Today, I want to share 4 personal stories, if you would indulge me. A caveat before I begin. What I don't want to do is to be prescriptive and suggest 10 ways to lead your life or something along those lines, because I personally don't believe in rigid path dependency. The first story concerns the law of unintended consequences. When I entered Hwa Chong, my seniors warned me never to join track and field because the training was tough and would allegedly take up a lot of time. I didn't choose track and field, but by some force of nature unbeknownst to me was allocated to the last CCA I imagined myself to be in. I hear that Hong Lao Shi and the other coaches have since mellowed, but in those days we used to shake in our pants and no one dared not to turn up for training because you'll be treated to an unsightly verbal barrage the next morning at flag raising. In my first training session, I cramped up badly by just jumping on the spot in the sand pit. Already the signs seemed ominous. It probably came as no surprise when in my first long jump competition I fared worse than the Nanyang girls. I did something like 3.4 meters or something like that. And to say it was embarrassing is a severe understatement. Triple jump wasn't an option because I committed the cardinal sin of jumping with my right hand and right leg at the same time. I was then sent to pole vault, where I almost became paralyzed after falling into my tailbone after letting go of the pole mid-air. The next stop in my whirlwind romance with the various events was with hurdles. But I broke the first hurdle into 2 when I attempted to cross it. I was sent, or rather banished, to high jump, in my opinion, at the time, of course. My coach, Mr. Woon, told me several years later he thought Hong Lao Shi sent him a piece of lati. The experience was daunting because my teammates were very talented. One of them held the age record for age group, and under such circumstances I had to work doubly hard to make up for always being the shortest in the field. However, I fell in love with the sport and trained 5 days a week. Training hard paid off, and I was grateful to have had the chance to represent the Singapore schools at regional competitions. Till today, I've never forgotten my journey in track and field because it validated the principle of hard work and perseverance. At the broader level, when we find ourselves in situations that we never imagined we would be in, some doors seem to close. But you've got to trust that others will open, and when they do, I hope you guys make the most of the experience. The second story is about stepping out of your comfort zone. When I was in primary school, my teachers used to always write in my report book that I needed to speak up more because I was too quiet. For that very reason, they didn't select me as a prefect because I was too shy and was always afraid of saying something wrong. In my first day at Hwa Chong, Mr. Lim Chuan Chia, who was my form teacher then in 1G, was trying to select the class chairman. He wanted volunteers. I remember shaking so hard in my seat because I wasn't sure whether I dared volunteer for it. I recall meekly raising my head up and offering myself for the job. Yes, I got stares all around in the classroom, but in retrospect, that was perhaps the most consequential decision I made in my time here at Hwa Chong. That single leap of faith set the groundwork for my future endeavors. It made me more confident to apply to be a counselor, something I would never imagine I would have done a year ago when I was in primary 6, much less continue for all my 6 years here. What started out as a simple desire to be more outspoken, less timid, and generally operate outside of my comfort zone soon evolved into a love for contributing back to this school. Human beings enjoy the status quo because there's a sense of familiarity and peaceful equilibrium about it. However, we should never develop an inertia for personal and even institutional change. Recognizing where we should improve is merely half the equation. The other half involves plucking up the courage to engage in activities outside our comfort zone. It's only by doing so can we continually ensure a steep and therefore fruitful learning curve. If you find that you're too comfortable with your lives now, I suggest that you re-examine it because the potential for growth has probably tapered off and stagnated. The third story I wanted to share is about love and empathy. My younger brother was born when I was 5 years old, diagnosed with congenital hydrocephalus, a rare condition where the fluid in his brain couldn't be drained off. His head was twice the size of his body when he was born and had to be put through several operations to insert artificial tubes inside his brain. However, the pressure that built up caused permanent damage to his eyesight, physical movements, mental faculties. Growing up was difficult because I blamed him for causing my mom to lose her job, for us to have a lower standard of living, and for the lack of attention I received. It was not until I was in primary 4 when my father was guiding me in a Chinese essay writing competition that my attitude changed radically. Penning down my reflections was cathartic because it released a torrent of pent-up emotions inside me and made me realize how immature I was up to that point in time. Following that turning point, I vowed to do my part in the family. It wasn't just about me recognizing the value of being independent to lessen the burden on my parents, but it was also a catalyst for engaging in service learning projects here at Hwa Chong. The first ever service learning project I did was with the Meta Center for Intellectually Disabled, because I wanted to know more about the condition of my younger brother and how I could better help him in his life at home. Likewise, I hope that all of you will see the same value in service learning. Singapore is increasingly well off, and it's probably true that many of you, I'm probably generalizing, but most of you do come from good family backgrounds, where everything has been rather smooth sailing. But let us not forget friends around us and our fellow countrymen who may not have had the same privileges as us. For those of us who have had the luxury of leading a good life thus far, I think it's incumbent upon you to always remember to give back to society in whatever capacity it may be. A small effort on your part can go a long way in bettering the lives of others. Civic consciousness, love, and empathy are powerful forces that make for a better society. The last story I want to share espouses the value of failure. I'd always done well academically from Sec 1 all the way to my J2 prelims. However, when most of my schoolmates peaked during A-levels, I stumbled and didn't do as well. In fact, I got my worst set of grades when I was going through A-levels. My grade of AA, B, C meant I didn't meet the grade cutoff of 3 A's required to study law in the UK, my lifelong dream and ambition. The provisional PSC scholarship that was awarded to me was hanging by the balance because PSC had never awarded anyone with my set of grades. I slipped into a state of pseudo-depression because all that I worked for in my 6 years at Hwa Chong seemed to have slipped down the drain. I wasn't performing well in basic military training at Tekong as well, the first phase of national service, because the constant stress and worry made me suffer from perpetual fever, chronic bronchitis and foot rot. It was probably the lowest point in my life thus far, and I became very withdrawn. I questioned the mantra of hard work pays off, and was in a constant state of flux and uncertainty. More importantly, I felt that I had let my family down because of my younger brother's condition. I've always worked doubly hard because I wanted my parents to have less to worry about. Ironically, I became their biggest worry during that period. Thankfully, things turned out fine in the end. I was lucky to have been accepted by some American universities which did not place as much emphasis on the A-level results. In a complete turn of events, PSC allowed me to retain my scholarship because I performed well in other areas like officer cadet school. In retrospect, I was glad to have stumbled and experienced failure in what was still a rather sanitized environment. It made me stronger and more resilient in the face of adversity. It is paradoxical, but failure has its virtues. Of course, I know it's impossible, to artificially create such situations. However, if and when you do meet failure, don't lose hope. Keep believing, even when nothing seems to work in your favor. For when you emerge from that abyss, you have had metamorphosed into a stronger being. Having shared my stories, I want to take you guys back to the start when I said that I don't want to be prescriptive and dole out tips about how to live your life. Because we all have our own stories to share and tell. What may be applicable to be for one might not be so for others. But too often we don't pause and reflect on what has made us who we are. The great Socrates said that an unexamined life isn't worth living. Therein lies the crux of what I hope to convey today. At the risk of overturning what I set out not to do, I will conclude by being singularly prescriptive. I hope all of you will lead an examined life, one where enough time and effort is spent on reflection, identifying the peaks and troughs of your life, and internalizing lessons learned from the bumps in the road as you traverse and fall into life's crevices. In closing, the stories I shared revolved around me and my experiences. But I have so much to thank this wonderful institution for providing the best learning environment I could possibly ask for when I was growing up. I never got the chance to publicly thank my teachers for playing an integral role in my development here at Hwa Chong, and I want to set the record straight today by saying that the President's Scholarship awarded to me was not a personal accolade. It's a testament to the quality and commitment of all my teachers, many of whom are in the audience today, here at Hwa Chong. I'm truly humbled to have been guided by them. To my juniors, you may be at a great institution, but how much each and every one of you truly gain and grow depends on your own initiative and drive. With that, I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors, and thank you very much.